Hello, welcome back. My name is Daniel Gormali. Welcome back to my channel. I believe it's November, right? I lose track, every year seems to meld into one. But I want to do another book review. And this is a book by Viswanathan Anand from India. And it's called Mind Master, Winning Lessons from a Champion's Life. Includes bonus content. So here's the book. Obviously, look inside. There's got a lot of writing inside the book. So I just shut it up, put up this camera. And at the end of the book, there's some nice photographs as well. There's a photograph of Anand. I have to do this visiting the president of India. Anyway, just to explain the book. It's, in my opinion, I've written some notes down actually, just to keep me on the straight and narrow with this review, but it reads more like a sports biography. So it's not a typical chess book in the sense that there's not a lot of chess positions in it. There are some chess positions, but there's not a lot of chess explanation. So if that's the type of book you're looking for, you've probably come to the wrong place. However, what it does do, it talks a lot about Anand's life. It talks about his inner world, his relationships with his parents, his relationships with his family in general, his wife, his kid. Talks about his friends in chess and so on. So it reads, I would say, it reads like a sports biography. Vishy is very honest. I've written down notes. Vishy is very honest. So what he comes across in the book has been a very modest and unassuming person. It's almost like you get this impression of this very ordinary person that happens to be exceptionally good at chess. And so he goes from really the start of his life, where he first came across the Mikhail Tal Chess Club, and that would have been in Mumbai. So that's where his family was living at the time. Then he went on to the Philippines, and Madras, is it Madras? That's where he's from. Shows I don't really pay attention to any of this. Tiger from Madras, right? Then he went on to the Philippines, and he was actually at the venue for the Karpov-Korchnoi match, which was in Baguio in the Philippines, only a few months after the match had ended. And then he actually won his World Junior title in that same venue. So there's a lot of interesting stuff that not everybody might be aware of. In my opinion, it seems to have been written during the pandemic. So if I look at the start of the book, normally where it says where the actual book, when the book was written, it says, first published in hardback in India in 2019. There's a bonus content, so that must be when he's talking about the pandemic, because 2019 was not the start. It was kind of the start of the pandemic, right? But then it really kicked off in 2020. Anyway, so it really reads almost like a sports biography, like a cricketer or, like a footballer or something like that, and a psychology book as well. So it's like a self-help book. So he's really talking about, I was confronted by these situations, this is how I dealt with them, these are the mistakes I made the first time around. This is the kind of mindset I drifted into. He talks about some of this, and it's a very interesting book in my opinion. It's a very wordy book. That's the difference I think with a chess book. It's broken up by chess position. This isn't really a chess book. It's a book about a chess player's life, and that's really what it is. And he does give quite a lot of good. I don't think he really gives away his most innermost secrets, but he does give you like a delve into his life. And, he talks about how he's very unpretentious, I would say. He talks about how after a game, he'd sort of binge watch 40 Towns or something like that. And he's obviously got that kind of typical English sense of humour as well. So obviously Vishy Anand is an inspiration for many people, not just in India but worldwide, and certainly chess players in India have really sort of followed in his footsteps. We've seen that in recent times. So he was a huge inspiration. He was coming from a country that didn't have a lot of background in chess. What I would like to, I mean, what I found fascinating about Anand was the early part of his career and why he was playing so quickly. And he didn't really go into that because I know it's well documented. He was playing very, very fast. At no point does he really talk about why he slowed down. Now he did. He said he had his kind of set of notes that said, you know, stop thinking, but he seemed to suggest that happened very early in his career. I mean, sorry, stop yourself from moving fast or whatever, right? And get up and have a cup of tea, which is very good advice, right? I'm always having cups of teas. I'm having too many cups of teas, and but he doesn't really go into the details of why he stopped playing so fast. I've kind of felt like that wasn't really revealed. There's this kind of mystery around about Anand, I would say. It wasn't completely solved by this book, but a lot of it was. So, okay, what are the other things I've written down? Yeah, it reads more like a chess psychology book than a normal chess book. I would say the slight downside of the book is that there aren't enough sort of positions. So, but that is not the type of book that he's trying to create here. I mean, I think that would have taken much longer. My guess is this book probably didn't take him that long to write. I mean, the guy's got a genius mind. He plays very quickly. He's well known for that. How long would it take him to write this book? Probably maybe a few weeks at the most. Whereas if you were writing a full chess book, if you write this book and you were putting chess positions as well, it would take longer. I'm not sure how long it would take him, but it would probably take longer. So this is something he could write fairly quickly. So maybe that was the attraction. Now, as far as I'm aware, the two most famous Anand chess books before this were Anand, as a collection of his best games. I believe that was published either by something like Batsford or Everyman or Cadogan, I can't actually remember. There was also a book called Vishy Anand Chess Super Talent, but maybe by David Norwood, right? But I'm not sure there have been that many books by Vishy Anand. There's another thing I wanted to talk about actually, is something that underestimated, is how the great chess players often just turn out to be the great writers. I think Jan Timman is a fabulous writer, is possibly, in my opinion, possibly the best chess writer. Obviously Vishy is a great writer, you can tell that, he's just a very good writer, full stop. Everything's well put together, all the sentences are just perfect. Gary Kasparov is a great writer, Magnus Carlsen, Bobby Fischer, my 60 greatest games. And just so many amazing chess writers that were also great players, Alekhine, Capablanca, Karpov, Botvinnik, Tao. Tao was a publisher for a magazine. Actually, one interesting anecdote, so maybe I'm kind of giving it away a little bit, that he mentions in this book. I'll just show you the book again. I'd buy this book actually if I were you. I mean, I bought this from eBay, and it cost me, can't remember how much it cost me. It doesn't even have it on the back cover, but it's not that expensive. But yeah, it's almost like, is it kind of a coincidence that he got into chess because his sister was walking. I think he already played chess by that point. But his sister was walking along, and one day she randomly spotted this Mikhail Tao chess club, and that's how he got really into playing in tournaments and like league games and stuff like that. Okay, some of the other stuff that yeah, he also does some good insights into the Kramnik match that he played in Bonn. So he does mention throughout the book that Kramnik was often a very good friend of his, probably still is to this day. But he mentions that Kramnik was going hard on any negotiations. It's a little bit like, that Fredo scene in The Godfather 2. He goes, he mentioned you're going hard on the negotiations. And yeah, I mean, so it reads like it was coming from Kramnik's team, but in reality, now you know what Kramnik's been doing recently, you start to think actually maybe it just came from Kramnik, right? All these kind of crazy. I don't want to spoil it anyway because I've spoiled enough about the book. Yeah, it comes across almost like Vishy's kind of a driven individual as well. Even though he's a quiet and unassuming character, he comes across as being a driven individual, often harbouring grudges against people, but never for long term, but often against his rivals. He has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, which I think all great players have to a certain degree. There's nice stories about Vishy at the start. Yeah, and Yeah, the other thing I would mention, I think it's been dumbed down in a way because I think they wanted to appeal to a wider audience. Because I mentioned before that I think Vichy has a lot of fans worldwide, not just in India, but also in worldwide. And a lot of them aren't skilled chess players. That hence why this book, you know, there's potentially like a large audience in India, just in India that he could sell this book to, who aren't necessarily strong chess players, but I've heard of the name of Viswanathan. So they'll buy that book in the sports section of a bookshop, you know, and read the book. So if you put them all through, you put loads of chess positions in, necessarily wouldn't be that popular. So yeah, that's essentially the book, and overall it's a very good book. I would definitely recommend this book. I'd say, you know, it's not completely perfect from the viewpoint of if you're looking for a chess book, but it's not that type of book. As I said, I do think that Vichy would be very fascinating if he wrote a book about some of his more recent experiences within chess, because he had that earlier book. But for example, he mentions how he does his training academy in India. What I'd like to see is like a book. It doesn't necessarily even have to be written by Anand, but like a book that's written by somebody, and they mention how they have these sort of training camps, what the material is done. You know, I think there's, you know, I mentioned the mystery of Vichy. It's a mystery of all these great players. I mean, he's very open and honest in his book. But I feel like with the best players in the world, although they, you know, does go through a lot of this sort of like the detail, the minutiae of what it's like to play in a world championship match, what it's like to prepare, which obviously is fascinating to chess fans. But, you know, some of the sort of details in terms of the chess content, I don't really get from the book. And obviously you have to kind of fill in the gaps because there are no chess positions, right? Or there's very few chess positions. He does mention specific chess details as well, so you can dig into that yourself. But I'd like to see a book. There probably are books out there. I think there's a book by Kramnik on one of these matches. I think there's also a book by Romain Edwards about his magic years with Topolov and something like that. So I might be reviewing them in the future. But anyway, overall, really good book. As I said before, people like Vichy Anand, Giri mentioned him recently on a podcast and said that good looking guy as well, Anand, you know. All these Indians seem to be like really good looking people, don't they? Sort of not like pale skinned, you know, ugly, sort of spotty English people like myself. But yeah, I think they're really good writers, these top chess players, and I think that's something that is not being mentioned enough. But yeah, Giri mentioned Anand on the podcast recently as being potentially one of the most intelligent chess players he's met, just having a very bright mind, and he mentioned how he sort of told him all this stuff about history and stuff. And anyway, so that's my book review. Please leave your comments down below. Would you be interested in buying a Vichy Anand chess book? If you haven't bought that Vichy Anand, My Best Games, that's an amazing book as well. Also, Shirov book came out around about the same period, Far on Board, that's also an amazing book. And there's also the Kramnik book from the 1990s kind of era. It's one of the most fascinating eras that I've discovered in chess.